We'll jump in here in a second. All right, Patrick, my man.
What's
Hey
up?
guys, welcome to Saturday interview with my man Patrick. I'm so excited that he was willing to come over and talk about his story. And for some of you who are going to be logging in and watching this, Patrick has had such a quite an awesome journey, and I've been a part. I've fortunately been a part of some of what he's done, and it's just exciting to see the success that he's started to unravel. So, hey, Patrick, why don't you just introduce yourself, where you're at, what do you do?
Well, obviously, my name is Patrick, as Luke said. I live in Elgin, Illinois. Beautiful Elgin, Illinois. I started working with Luke in December. I did his 21-day slim down program. I struggled with weight gain for a long time, and I'm not a huge fan of going to the gym, as many people who know me know, but it was a really good tool for me to control the one thing that I really can control, which is how I eat and how I plan my days around work and kids and everything. So, and that for me, as a friend of mine that I talked to recently said, your diet is your secret sauce. And you know what I've managed to do for the last few months really shows that that's true.
Yeah. So talk to us about, because Patrick, before you got into the program, you did a lot of other things prior to that. Would you walk us through some of the things that you've done in the past to try to see results?
Oh, sure. I've done crash diets. I've done your 30-day join our gym workout plan, our diet plan, and moderate success, but it was really temporary. Um, I tend to eat out of boredom. I tend to overeat. That's still, even right now, sometimes is I have to catch myself from doing that. Um, I've had a gym membership for years that I never used, and I wished it away. I prayed that the good Lord would shed 50 pounds from my frame, and obviously it falls back down on me. And my wife, God bless her, has been encouraging me and yelling at me and demanding that I do something to take care of myself, because I really was rather unhealthy. I mean, diet aside, I'm 5'4", so I'm not tall by traditional standards, but I never weighed myself last year until just before we really started this program. I would have no doubt that I was tipping the scale over 270 pounds. And when you're a small framed person, that's a lot of weight. I mean, my joints hurt, my back was all messed up. I would sit and sweat. I mean, it's embarrassing to say, but it was true. I mean, I would get ready in the morning and I would make, my meals for the day, because I've always generally done that, but I would just sweat and I would leave for work and my shirts would be wet because I was, I was carrying around so much weight that it really did have a real negative effect on a lot of aspects of my life. And so, enter what I did here, and it's a world of difference.
Yeah. Well, Patrick, I think you're speaking to so many people right now of who are stuck, especially with this pandemic and being at home. And I know so many people can relate to, the stiff joints and just the sedentary life. And more importantly, someone in that position hopelessness is going to start arising, especially from your past, right? So like, I remember actually, I don't remember the messaging, we were going back and forth. There was a little bit of skepticism, like, what is this all about, right? Like, okay. And really, the only door that I had into you is because you saw what Scott had done, and you're like, well, okay, I'm willing to hear, right? But it was just interesting where someone in your position all of a sudden starts to lose hope that this is actually possible. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, in Scott's, my wife is actually friends with him, and she started following your page and kept telling me, you need to check this guy out. You need to check this guy out. And I'm like, but, seeing what he did, and I know his program that he did was a lot more intensive. And, for somebody who has always resisted anything like that, or just struggled and just really, you get that feeling of just complete defeat.
Yep.
And taking any first step, it feels like you're walking a mile.
Yeah.
So when and I remember I was doing something in the basement, because that's my little play zone down there.
Yep.
I remember I was doing something down there, and she came down and says, "Hey, Luke is doing this. I think you should look at it." And she says, "I'm not going to make you, but you need to do it." So
I'm not going to make you, but I'm going to make you.
Pretty much. And like I said, I thank God that she did that, because, it finally something, and we had talked about, my eating before. She got one of those portion plates where your protein is in one little cube, your carb is in another, and your vegetables are here. She said, you can control what you eat. Try using this. I mean, it as weird as it might sound, it actually did start to work, because when I would take food to work, that would be my lunch. And instead of taking traditional American portion size of everything, I reduced, but I was still eating properly, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that was something that I could control. But when this came along and she said, let's have you try this, I did, as much as I wanted to kick and scream and go, no, I did. So
yeah. Well, and we were just right before we jumped on the call, you were talking about stress of your job, and so there's so much, there's in addition to your body and where it's at, like the stress of the job and lifestyle, right? Like that's a whole thing that you were going through. Tell me more about what because I remember throughout the challenge, you kept on saying, man, this is why I feel like this is easy for me to implement. I'm just like, can you tell a little bit more about why this program was easy for you to use and utilize, and it's been really lifestyle friendly for you?
I'm very much the type of person that I don't always need to know the ins and outs, the whys, the wheres, all of that. I just kind of want to know this works. As we went along and you explained in small doses, which for my brain, that's just constantly so much minutia going on in there. That worked for me, because I understand how, I understand why, and I understand what. But it wasn't so much up front where it's like reading one of those diet books where you got to get through 350 pages before you get to the first recipe. That is so counterproductive to anybody, in my opinion. But the plan that you put in place was simple to follow. It was mapped out. You do this, and you do this. This is what'll happen. And it really was that simple. The cookbook, to this day, right now, I still eat meals out of that. The way that my wife and I have always cooked here, it's real similar to a lot of the stuff that's in there. I'm a huge proponent of leftovers throughout the week. We'll make food on Sunday and then I can eat for 4 days, and I'm fine with it. I'm very much a creature of habit, and if I just grab and go, I'm fine. And that's really the essence of what it was. Looking at it, it was just that. It's make batches of this, do this, and this, and here's what happens. So that's really why I felt it was easier for me to implement, but also now 4 months later to keep sticking with.
Yeah, that's so crucial, man. That habits, most people don't recognize part of it's not necessarily finding the perfect how to, it's just, hey, Samson, that's my dog.
I got Smallses over here.
Yeah, I think he's got to go poop. It was hailing and storming, so we didn't get our walk today. But for you, is the habits and the behaviors that go into everybody's. Ezra, my whole family's in here. The dog's barking. Everybody's in here on the interview, so it's all good. That's what we do. But part of it is
I was here.
Yeah, exactly. The habit, but what I was talking about was the habits and behaviors that needed to be simple in order for you to execute, and that's the process, right?
Yeah, and it was their behaviors as far as my eating went that I had to change. I still fall victim to it on occasion. Yeah. I'm not perfect by any means, and I'm not going to lecture anyone on any aspect like that. Are you familiar with Noom?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So one of the things that they talk about in there is people who storm eat. And that is honestly, it's a perfect analogy, because I would make dinner, but I would eat the entire time. And it wasn't, munching on the vegetables that I'm cutting. I'm eating Triscuits and cheese, and then, oh, hey, here's some potato chips and, ooh, cookies. It was, for lack of a better term, I would just eat crap. But I would eat so much of it that I would be full. And then I'd sit down and eat dinner. That stuff had to change. And that really has, I still really have the urge on occasion to go munch, but I control it a lot better now. My meal prep, and you talked about chopping vegetables. I'm like a ninja when it comes to that stuff now. I still hate chopping vegetables, but I can do it in a quarter of the time that I was before. But that came out of necessity because I had to. So it really was, for me, and still is, a simple plan to follow. And just being prepared. And I know there's days where things get out of your control and you try to prep for it, but how you react to it, I still call them my feedings. Yep. My 5 o'clock feeding, if the one thing I did do is I switched meal 2 and meal 3 with the shake.
Yeah, okay.
That was out of necessity, because I'm usually in the car or I'm at work or I'm running around somewhere. So
smart.
That really did help me. But then there's days where I forget my shake, or I leave it at work, and then I go home and, oh crap, and then I still have a few hours left.
Sure.
How do you react to that? I forgot my first meal one day because I left it on the counter and packed everything else. So instead of running out and going to McDonald's or whatever, I just kind of took a breath and said, okay, I can go to the grocery store and get these 2 things that are cold, and that'll be my meal for number 1, and perfect. So, while I still want to go to Portillo's on occasion, and I, still do, it's not the first go-to option for me anymore. The pandemic shutdown has helped in the sense that, had I started this a year ago, it would have been my only option. But with so many things still not open and schedules and everything, we have done a lot more cooking at home and still do. So from that aspect, it's been a lot easier to plan and have stuff ready. And that's, for me, the simplicity of that and the consistency. Because like I said, I'm a creature of habit, and that's what works for me. So
yeah, well, and you're nailing it, man. I love hearing you, because you're talking about habits, you're talking about behaviors, and Patrick, can we emphasize something that we haven't talked about? I think you walked you didn't do any of the strength training. I remember you talking like, I didn't do the strength training. You walked,
Yeah,
right?
oh yeah. Schedule wise, I was bad with doing the exercises. I think I did one of them.
That's okay.
It wasn't from lack of want. It was more
No.
of schedule, and it was
Yeah.
time, and that's always the big factor. So I walked. I took the dogs for walks every night. We did between 1.5 miles and 2 miles, just depending on what it was. And that's all I did. Then the weather got bad and the walking stopped, so that's started to kind of pick up again. I have started going to the gym a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like today, my son's got his swim practice, so I'll be at the gym, so I'll go work out today. But yeah, it was like my friend said, your diet's your secret sauce. And, I'm about 45 pounds down from when I started. 99.6% of it was eating.
Yes. Better. Yeah. Well, and you dropped 4 pant sizes, you dropped the whole shirt size.
Did.
And you dropped the whole, whole 1.5 inches or off your neck, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that first photo that I sent you, I didn't even want to, but that's
the old you.
What I was.
Gone. Bye.
It is. It's what I was. And
that's right. Mm-hmm.
And that picture is almost a year old. That was just after the shutdown last year.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, just clothes fitting better. I got rid of all my big, hefty, way too big pants. I mean, it really was rapid when it started. I remember my wife was wearing just a pair of jeans that were really getting big, and she looked at me from behind and said, "You look like you're wearing a diaper and that it's loaded. You need to go get new pants." I was trying to avoid spending money on it, but it really was. It looked pretty funny. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, all the clothes that I've held on to, because I was wishing my weight away, starting to fit, and getting rid of the stuff that I had to keep buying bigger because I wasn't making any changes. That felt really good.
Yeah. Well, Patrick, I appreciate you taking time today. I think my last question for you is, like, what would you say to someone who's on the fence about joining this program, and why should they get involved and reach out to me?
Well, one, it works, and it's not difficult. Well, I won't say it's not difficult. The first week sucked, but the first week of anything sucks. New job, first week sucks. It's when you're training and you're learning everything and you're meeting people. New diets suck. This isn't a diet though. This is really changing habits and changing behavior. And yeah, the way it works, you're eating in a smaller window of time. It still is a factor with me. Sometimes getting to your first meal can be difficult sometimes, but
sure.
You listen to your body, you plan, and simple changes that you get through that first week, and it gets easier, and it works. So I'm living proof that it works, and it's easier to maintain than trying to follow some kind of fad diet. It's in my opinion, and for what it's worth, much healthier than trying to be on keto where everyone eats bacon and cheese. I mean, come on.
Yep.
And it's sustainable. I have my days where I go off the rails and I'm not sticking to my program. I haven't reversed any progress that I've made, and that for me was key. My weight will fluctuate a little bit. I try not to focus on the scale so much, but I do pay attention. But I also know by how my body reacts what's about to happen. So knowing that it's, of all the things, it's the one thing that I really can control. And the progress, we talked about in the past, baby steps. Well, my baby steps have led to a really, really big big step in the long run. I still got a long way to go. I'm not done yet, but at the same time, I'm not so worried about, where I'm going to be in a few months, just because this is the one tool I've got in my tool belt that I know is going to work for me. And, I talk about it to anybody who asks. A lot of people say, "Oh, I can't do that." Well, okay. Then don't do it. But, I said the same thing, and then I jumped in both feet, and here we are.
There you are. Patrick, you are the man, dude. I'm so celebrating your success. So proud of you, brother. And I know so many people are rooting for you to continue on your journey. So I appreciate you taking the time today, my friend. And for those of you who are out there who are watching Patrick's story, where you're like, man, that's impactful. I'm encouraged. I'm motivated. What's the next step for me and my journey? The next step would be reach out to me. Let's schedule a strategy session where we can talk more specifically about your struggles, what you're doing, and where you're stuck. It's really easy. You can go up in the link in my bio on my page, Facebook page, click that. You can schedule something for yourself, and we'll go from there. Or you can just send me a direct message and we can talk from there. But thank you, friends, for joining. Have a great Saturday. Patrick, you're the man. We'll see you on the other side, buddy.
Take care, buddy. Thank you.
Peace.